Welcome to the Chaos Commitment. We're Jared and Courtney.
Around here, commitment doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means we show up for each other, even in the chaos.
Welcome back to the Chaos Commitment. We're your hosts, Jared and Courtney, and today we're going to talk about the first time we became parents.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Stryker today. And that is why last episode we left the question. Are you ready? What value or lesson do you most hope to pass on to your first child?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
All right. So when I answered this, I feel like it'd be important to say what I thought were important values or lessons that my parents passed on to me.
Mm.
So briefly, I'll just say, I don't think I ever saw my dad without him saying, "Oh, I hope you never get into smoking. Stupidest thing I ever did." So I think that's what he wanted to pass on to me. My mom, it was a bit more subtle. I think she wanted to pass on the importance of working hard in the things you do. And as I reflected back, I feel like that was pretty evident. But for me, it's kind of hard because we're in such a different time now than when I was a child and I saw the things that I thought my parents wanted to kind of put value on for me. So what I put was emotional intelligence. And what I mean by that is artificial intelligence is becoming so utilized, and I think emotional intelligence is going to become more and more important in the coming years. Now, I also want my children to value learning and education because I mean that's vital even in being able to use those tools. But the reason I put emotional intelligence is because I want them to have a lot of value on connection.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told all of our kids, but they have an attention span of about 3 seconds. So Stryker might have been the only one that heard this, maybe Raiden, but I just remember having this conversation with them when we sat down and had a little church lesson, and I said something along the lines of the only people that are always going to be in your life and will always be there to support you are in this room, like referring to us and their brothers, right? And there's other people who will likely fall into that category, but given their age and everything around that, and people going to move apart, whatever it might be, like that's pretty true though. No matter where they go in life, their parents and their brother are the ones who are always going to be there for them. So that connection they have within our home is a really important thing. But again, that connection applies to outside family also, and their close friends and people who come into their lives and play an important role.
Yeah.
What did you have?
I wrote, I always want my kids to know their worth and understand that it is not defined by any external factor or how much they can provide in this world. And thinking about the first child, I put similarly, I want our boys to see the worth in others. So, with Stryker being our firstborn, I don't know how he gets this way, but he is very nurturing towards his brothers. He sees the best in them, even when they're driving him crazy, even when he's annoyed with Kano or whatever. He really sees the best in them. I really hope that all of our boys can see the worth in others and also see that worth inside themselves, that even when they make mistakes, even if they do or say the wrong thing, even when they need growth, their worth has not faltered. And whatever society places on you, whatever you feel like you should be doing, whatever you feel like you should be able to accomplish, should be able to provide, it does not matter. Always great to have goals. You obtaining that status, obtaining those goals is not what's definitive of your worth. I've known that deep down, but for me personally, there has been time where that has faltered. I've had to rebuild that. I feel like it's important for me to kind of instill that early on and hopefully help them carry that throughout their lives.
Yeah, I like what you said there, and what came in my mind is your current value is not the sum of your current circumstances.
Mm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope our kids can realize that because they're probably going to have circumstances at times that are hard.
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
not ideal.
Yeah.
And they might not feel super valuable. I like that because we can help them recognize that in themselves too. So we're going to talk about Stryker today.
Yeah.
But the first thing I want to talk about is what was the circumstance for us around the time of us becoming parents to Stryker when he came into the world. So I'll talk a little bit on that.
Yeah.
The timing of things was very interesting because I worked at the titanium plant and I worked there from the day they opened until the day they closed, pretty much. We decided, but you came up with this thing like, I feel like we should move in with Nana and Papa, your grandparents, call them Nana and Papa. And you're, I just remember you telling me, I feel like they could really use them help. We could do some good things for them and we could learn a lot from them. As we decided that, it was like the week I was running the marathon, the week after we decided to move in, my company announced they were going to close that plant that I worked at. So I was going to be out of a job. And so the timing of that decision was really interesting. I don't know if I'd say it was coincidental, I guess. But we then moved in with them. I finished out my last couple of months, which was the end of the year, the end of 2016. And then I was done working. I was in this strange phase of collecting severance and waiting to have that run out so I could start my bachelor's degree because of the way the plant closed. It was kind of sponsored for me to do that. And let's see, we just barely got our first dog also. We went into the new year of 2017 and what walk me through what you were feeling then.
Well, I was still working at the hospital and you were at home starting school. When did you start school? January?
No, I started in August.
So you had a gap?
Yeah, I had a pretty big gap. I started in August. Stryker was born in April.
Yeah.
And I finished my job like at the end of the year. Like you girls were doing your little craft thing.
Uh-huh.
And I came home from work my last day. I came home a little bit early because there was like nothing else to do. And I just remember feeling weird, like I'm done working. I don't even know what's next for me. I didn't start until August.
Yeah,
So a few months after Striker came. But yeah, there was definitely a big gap in there.
that's right. Okay. So yeah, I was working at the hospital
So
still.
this is a recap for you as well as our audience.
I know, like I'm gonna need your help probably this whole episode because
I mean, this was 9 years ago at the
yeah,
end,
I
so
know. Yeah, like I was still working and then when Stryker came here in April, I had a nice 12 weeks just like you and I living in Nana and Papa's house. We didn't have a lot of responsibility. Neither one of us are working. We literally just had our baby to take care of and a dog.
that's true.
So
Did you have any expectations going into having that first baby? Or, like, do you wanna tell what our relationship was like? Did you feel good about where we were and becoming parents for the first time?
yeah, I mean, I feel like we were in a really good place despite a lot of uncertainty. I feel like we had a really good plan with you starting school. It only made sense because you were also getting paid to go to school. So not only was your tuition being paid, you were getting a paycheck still. And then I could go back to work after my maternity leave went out and I could keep working. You could be the stay at home parent and we lived with family. So there wasn't a lot of financial responsibility, household responsibilities and it cooked for us every night. So, like, we were in a really comfortable place where we knew we were working towards something great for the future, and yeah, there was a little uncertainty, but, like, we had so much confidence that everything was fine and everything was working out the way that it was meant to. I don't know if I had a lot of expectations going into, like, pregnancy and birth. Honestly, I feel like I was really naive. Well, both of us. I feel like we're a little bit ignorant to some things around pregnancy and birth. Did you have any expectations?
Well, me, I felt like I didn't put in much work at all before becoming a parent,
Mhm.
educating myself or anything like that. I guess I thought, man, I just really want to be present and give my kids attention and just be a great dad.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think I just went into it with that.
Yeah, I think we both kinda had some really strong family units, really strong examples of good parents, and so we kinda had this ignorant, preconceived notion of, like, "We're just gonna do it. It's gonna come naturally. I'm gonna have that motherly instinct. You're gonna have that fatherly instinct also, and we're just gonna do it. There's no need to worry or be prepared or, like, really educate ourselves because we're his mom and dad." Like, that's qualification enough. And so, in a way, I still believe those things, but also we have a wealth of knowledge now
Mm.
that I wish we maybe would have obtained a little sooner.
So with that, let's go into Stryker's birth story. Are you ready?
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna need a lot of help though, because
Okay, I'm here to help, but I do I do think you have a great insight because as the birthing parent, as the one who took on most of the responsibility with feeding and taking care of the baby in those early stages especially, I'll let you kind of deliver that information and I'll jump in as, I feel like there might be something I can add.
yeah, well, we were driving an hour to our appointments, and our OB was also pregnant, and I think that, like, played a role a little bit in the path that we chose. So, Jared and I, we chose to participate in what was called the ARRIVE study. So, to kind of, like, recap what that study was showing, they placed women in 2 groups. Either you were induced at 39 weeks or you were in to labor spontaneously, and it was just like a flip of a coin. You were put in one group or the other. They were trying to prove that by being induced at 39, there was a less chance of stillbirth. Why did we even do it? I don't know.
They asked us if we wanted to be in it,
Mhm.
and I think we just didn't know better. Hmm. I guess if we were to have a planned date to go in, maybe that'd be convenient. Maybe that'd be a good thing.
Also, like me working in the medical field, though, I had it kind of ingrained in my head like, whatever you can do to advance the cause of medicine, right? And I myself had to have a beginning start somewhere and I had to practice on someone else. So I was always open to like students and letting people try on me. Like someone's got to be the person to let other people learn, right?
I remember you being that person a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. It's funny because the next time they came in and asked us, and we had decided, like, "Okay, yeah, we'll do it." In my mind, and I think I even said to you, like, "I want 6 kids. Like, I need to experience what labor feels like. I don't wanna be induced." And we kinda, like, had a prayer and, like, talked about it, and we're like, "Heavenly Father will help us, like, be put in the right, like, category." And so we hadn't even gotten home when they gave us the call, and we're like, "Hey, like, thanks so much for doing it, and you're placed in the group that's gonna be induced at 39 weeks." And we hadn't even bought a car seat yet. Remember, we went to Target and we bought that jogger stroller, and the box was so big, we couldn't make it fit in the car, so we had to get everything out and ditch the box at Target.
Yep.
So, that's how we got placed on the induction list, and we committed to being induced at 39 weeks.
I mean, I just remember, I think we were going to our doctor appointments like once every 4 weeks. And I just remember we showed up at one, and our doctor, I think we liked her
Yeah,
quite a bit for
yeah.
what we knew at that time. Not that that would change my mind now, but I just remember going to an appointment and like the 4 week span, a lot changes in you and our doctor. And we saw our doctor, and I was just like, you are obviously pregnant and will not be there for the birth of this baby.
Yeah.
Are you going to even tell us this? Or do I need to awkwardly bring this up? And it's like right at the end, she said something, and I was just like, yeah, okay, so you're not even going to be there. And it just seems like our first birth was already kind of thrown off track.
Yeah.
So leading up to the birth, we met with one or two different doctors. Also, in being in this study, this hospital, it's a very big hospital. It's also on like the grounds of a university.
Mhm.
And so there are a lot of students, and it just seems like there's a lot of things going on. People are busy. And as we were going to have this baby, we realized, oh, actually, it probably wouldn't have been our doctor anyway, because they just
Mhm.
have one doctor here that delivers all the babies on certain days.
I worked all the way up to my induction date. Like, literally, I worked that Saturday. Sunday was Easter, and I was supposed to work, and they were like, "Hey, we know you're having your baby. You wanna just have the holiday off?" And I remember people were upset because they were like, "Why should she get the holiday off? Like, it's not her turn." Because we had mandatory, like, holidays
Yeah.
at, the hospital. Someone had to be there. And so I got that day off, and then our induction was scheduled for the next day on
Yep.
Monday. And they told us to call and make sure that the medical
Make
staff
sure
was in a good
everything's
place.
ready
Right.
so we
Yeah.
could go in. And I think it was 8 o'clock, right? They
Mhm.
told us to call in. So we called in and they're like, we got some things going on. Give us a call back in an hour. We
Mhm.
called back at 9 o'clock. Kind of the same thing. We called back at 10 o'clock.
Mm.
Same thing again. They're like, okay, yeah, just give us a call back and we're going to get you in. And we called back at 11 o'clock, and finally they were like, okay, it was 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I
And
think
then they
so.
said, yeah, go ahead and come in. We're getting a room ready for you. And so we started heading in, and it seemed like kind of a special thing.
It was
Like,
nonchalantly, like, walking to
yeah,
the
just
parking
like, let's
lot.
go have our baby.
Yeah.
Like, not even like
Yeah.
realizing what was going to
Oh,
happen,
yeah.
all the massive changes that were about to take place. And we were just two young, naive kids, and we're like, let's go do this. How great.
Yeah. At midnight, like, the parking lot was so dark and
Yeah, that was
yeah.
one good thing. We didn't have to deal with all the traffic and
Yeah.
busyness of that situation, right?
Yeah.
So we get there. Well, walk me through what you remember.
I mean, they try to soften your cervix the night before, especially with it being my first baby. And so they gave me the medication and they had preemptively told me at our appointments, like, medication itself could put you in labor if you're close enough. And so that was kind of my hope, is because I was still like feeling kind of sad that we were put in this like induction um group because I was like, I want to experience labor. I need to know what it feels like to go into labor because I'm not going to be induced with all my others. So I was really hoping that in itself would just kind of soften me enough to go into labor, but it didn't. First baby. And we were really smart because we had all the things packed that we felt like we were gonna need. We had my
Yeah,
heating pad.
that was definitely a we thing.
Yeah.
I was on it.
Yeah. And you had the Roku that we set up in the room.
I think that was the only thing I put in the bag.
We had DVDs in case it didn't work. Like, we weren't prepared for a long labor. We
Oh.
were.
But you got everything ready. I was again, I put in like the one thing so I could
Yeah.
be entertained.
Yeah. So we turned on something. I know we watched basketball while we were there. I know we watched a few funny shows while we were there. I think it was hard for us to go to sleep because of the admittance process and then just like the anxiety and like excitement of it. But I feel like you finally fell asleep once I finally started having like a little bit of contractions
Hmm.
and you would go like heat my heating pad up for me because it was just like a rice pack or like a corn
You
pack.
mean I woke up to do that?
Yeah, I would be like, Jared, it needs to be heated up again, and you would go do it, and then you'd come back and fall asleep. But like they were manageable until they weren't throughout the night into the early morning. And then when I started taking like pain medication, they said I could have it every hour in my IV. And once I started getting more intense contractions, I was asking for it and they were like, it's only been like 20, 40 minutes. And I remember like shift change, it's morning now. And the nurse is kind of like, if you're going to like keep requesting the medicine, we probably need to find a better solution. And I was like, well, I don't want to be tied to the bed. I don't want the epidural yet. We don't know how long this will be. And she's like, what if I have somebody come in that will help you like try some different things to help make you more comfortable? And I was like, that sounds great. Meanwhile, we were still trying to get sleep, a little bit of sleep, but no one ever came in. I don't know whatever happened with that. And so shortly after that, the doctor came in and said, why don't we break your water? And I didn't know at the time how much longer things were going to be, how things were progressing. We didn't know much of anything at that time. So they already had asked if I wanted the epidural and I said yes. And they came in to break my water and then shortly after that they came to do the epidural. And so I remember sitting up on the edge of the bed just like so much fluid coming out
Mm.
and them doing the epidural. And then after the epidural was finally placed, I told the nurse, like, I am so sorry, but we're going to have to change my entire bed because I've just been leaking this entire time. And she's like, oh, no, no, it's fine. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, no, you don't understand. That was like a lot of fluid. So what was it like seeing me get the epidural?
I probably wouldn't have even remembered the liquid thing. In fact, I didn't at all. What I remember is they brought in the anesthesiologist, but
Mhm.
then they had like a student, someone in training, whatever, actually do it. And note to self, do not let a student do
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
ever.
No.
So, man, I just remember watching the anesthesiologist, watching the student do it. It's almost as if she was like, I don't know if you're doing it right, which didn't give me any confidence.
Yeah.
So the student did it, but then she had to replace it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh, man, like I don't like seeing this at all."
Yeah.
And it's not that I was like woozy or anything, but it was just like the uncertainty of the student.
Yeah.
And with these students, I think we always just assume I'm the first one they're ever doing this on,
Mhm.
regardless of that being true or not, right? But I think you
Yeah.
just kind of get a little skeptical when you're in that situation. So it wasn't a good situation for me. Maybe I should have just left the room. I don't know. I do remember I was just like, We want you to do it now." Like, because she was like, "I think it needs to be replaced." And I was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do it. Like, he's not gonna do it." Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
Oh,
I do remember after the fact you saying, like, she wasn't even watching him. She was too busy, like, talking to your nurse. I don't think she even really watched him place it until after
so
the
she
fact.
was distracted, but it seemed like she'd look back and be
Not
like,
in the
kinda
right place.
unsure of, like,
Yeah.
how the job was being performed, but then she wouldn't
Totally
even pay
confident.
attention, and, yeah, then she went and looked, and she's like, "Needs to be replaced." I'm like, "Hey, you're doing it, like, pay attention this time and
Yeah.
get it done right."
Yeah.
So, that was a little bit frustrating, and from there, you were feeling
Oh,
better?
yeah, after that, it was like, I can take a nap. They also gave me a pain pump button. So I mean, I took a nap, you took a nap. I remember waking up, you were watching basketball. It
So,
was great for several hours.
correct me if I'm wrong, the pain pump button does have a limit.
Yeah, you can only push it, what was it, like, every 15 minutes? I don't remember.
I think that's what it is.
Something like that, and so I remember I took a nap and you were watching basketball, and this was, I don't know, midday, maybe? And
Probably early afternoon, late
yeah,
morning,
yeah,
just guessing.
yeah, and, I mean, that's how we labored for the next several hours. It was pretty comfortable. I do remember feeling like my nurse could not turn me in the bed, and so she'd be like, "Hey, let's get you in a different position," and I'd be like, "Okay," and she'd be like, "You can't move. I'm gonna have to do it," and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna help anyways?" Like, almost like, "That's cute. You literally can't move," and I was like, "Well, I'm not just gonna lay here, like, helpless." Like, it was just, like, instinct to be like, "Yeah, let's get me in a new position." So this is what's really ironic is when I worked in the hospital, I worked with back surgery patients. And so I knew how to position a patient really well to be comfortable on their side. And I kept telling you, I just need to pull the sheet a little bit more to get my hip underneath me. Like I kind of was like twisted in the bed. So yeah, they were like turning me from side to side, but they weren't lining my hips with my spine. And so I was like really twisted and I couldn't move my lower
I
body.
remember you asking me to move you a lot of times.
Yeah, and I'd be like, "Just, like, grab the sheet and, like, tug it a little bit," and my hip will just pop right under me, and you were like, "I don't wanna pull the epidural, I don't wanna mess anything up, I can have them come back in," and I'm like, "No, they're not doing it, like, I need them to do it," and this is just, like, so ironic that, like, I do this is my job, and I'm really good at it, and I can't even do it for myself right now. We labored for a long time like that, pretty comfortably, for the most part, until I finally got that really strong pressure and the pain pump. I was pushing it and I was like, "Listen, something's not right. I'm really starting to feel pain again. Do we need to replace the epidural again? The pain button doesn't seem to be working." And they're like, "You're probably really close." And they checked me and I was at a 9 centimeters dilated. And they were like, "You're probably gonna be able to push in like 20 minutes." I was like,
I just remember
"That's so
you
great."
constantly saying, "So much pressure on my butt,"
Yeah. Yep.
which that's what that means. It's about time to push, right?
Yeah. And first time parents, no one. No one told us that, but
Yeah, for first time, you're just like, "Oh, man,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
why am I feeling all this pressure?"
But something was happening with the baby that they weren't fully telling us because they paged the pediatric team as if it was an emergency, and they all came running in, and then they're like, "No, no, no, she hasn't actually delivered yet." And so the OB that was gonna, like, deliver us hadn't even gotten there yet. He came in, somebody we just barely met, like, this is us meeting him for the first time, and they had done some practice pushes with me. I felt really good about them. I did feel like we were getting close, and they were like, "We'll probably meet your baby in like 20 minutes." And I was like, "That's great. I love this. Okay, like let's do it." But when it came to pushing, my back hurt so bad from being twisted in the bed that I could not even, like, focus or get my mind off of my back pain, and I kept being like, "I don't wanna push the pain button," because I really wanted to work with my body, like, I had that intuition of, like, "Don't push the pain button." I kinda wanna, like, dial it down on the pain meds because I wanna feel this and I wanna work with my body. But, oh my gosh, my back is spasming and hurting so bad from being twisted in the bed for the last 5 or 6 hours.
So isn't that kinda counterintuitive to the epidural itself?
Yeah.
So
But
so do you wish you wouldn't have gotten one in where you were at that time?
no, I needed it. Like, as
Okay.
a first-time
But you
parent
wanted to feel it when it was
yeah,
time.
but, like, when it came to actually, like, "Oh, you're gonna meet your baby in 20 minutes," I was like, "Okay, like, I'd really like to feel this part." Like, I just knew, like, that I didn't have any kind of like, birth education, but I just knew, like, I wanna be able to work with my body, I wanna be able to feel this, I wanna be able to help get Stryker here soon, and I don't know.
I don't know if I would have had that logic if I was going through it.
Yeah. So, I feel like we pushed for literally, like I mean, we had the practice pushes, doctor came in, we pushed for, like, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Something like that.
It seemed very
4 to
quick.
5 minutes?
Yeah, it seemed very, very quick once the OB was there and was, like, actually helping us with pushing, but they took him right away. So, baby came out, and I just remember the head coming out, his body slipping out, it was, like, so quick. Like, once that, like, head came out, the rest of him came out so quickly, easily, smoothly, and then I don't even think you took out the cord for Stryker.
No, in fact, I think they just snipped it and took him and ran.
Yeah.
But the thing about Stryker is, I mean, you say he came out quickly. What I remember is he came out on a slip and slide, and I was just like, "Wow, there's the little purple furry monster." That's that's about what I saw, and I was just like, Where's he going?" You know?
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I guess that was a little discouraging because I think you have in your mind, like, the baby comes out and then goes to mom,
yeah.
and we didn't get that.
Mhm.
But I also don't think things were communicated to us, and we just weren't aware of what was happening.
Yeah,
To this day, I'm not sure we
yeah.
really know exactly what happened in that.
Mhm. Yeah, because they cleaned me up and went through the last stage of labor of letting the placenta come out, stitching me up, and I remember I was like, "Can I push my pain button now?" And everyone in the room was like, "Yeah, why haven't you pushed your pain button?" Yeah, like, it was several minutes before they brought Stryker to me, and then it's like, I don't remember if he was still unwrapped or if they had already, like, wrapped him up. It seems like he already was, like, wrapped.
He was.
Yeah, so he's already wrapped, they brought him to me, they encouraged me to try to nurse, and then everyone left, and we were just left alone, just you, me, and Stryker, and I was like, "I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up right now." And I needed you to, like, get me a bag and take the baby, and it was just us in our room, like, I don't know where everybody went. Do you remember that?
No, but it was weird because it felt like there were about at least 10 people in the room,
Yeah,
and it was as if we were in this big emergency, and then everybody just kinda rushes out to the next thing.
yeah.
And we were just kinda like, "You guys are okay with us just being here with the baby alone?"
Yeah, like, crisis averted and that's it? Like, okay, but
But again, I think that was part of being at that specific hospital
mhm.
where
Yeah.
very, very busy, big hospital,
Lots of students, lots of learning
and
going on.
again, there was one doctor that just went around and did all the deliveries, and so
Mhm.
it was kinda like
On to the next. Nice to meet
Yeah,
you
just
for a
kinda
minute.
like, "Everybody rush into this room. Okay, we
Mhm,
got it done. Everybody rush to the next."
mhm.
And I just remember feeling like a number,
Yeah, mhm.
like, "We got number 8 delivered for the day, on to 9."
But then we got moved to the post-delivery room. This was like 11 o'clock at night by this time, so we had been there almost exactly 24 hours. So once we got, like, moved and resettled into the post-delivery room, how was that feeling? Or how was it for the next 24 hours knowing we're parents now?
I mean, it was great. Do you remember how you felt when you held Stryker for the first time?
It's really hard. It's hard to remember back that long. I was so happy, and I remember looking at you and be like, "This is our baby. Like, we have a baby now." And I just remember, like, those moments after being, like,
I remember
alone.
you saying those words, actually.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that's really special that you've always done despite you going through all this work and doing everything. It's funny because, like, in the movies, they will show the woman and she's like, "I hate you, get out." Like,
Yeah.
like, "You did this to me."
Yeah.
And you've always made it a point to just be like, "Jared, we're doing this."
Yeah.
And that's been really special for me.
No.
Just to feel that connection with you while we're literally in the moment and you're at the most pain possible, but you stop and you just say, "Sure, this is it.
Yeah.
We're doing this."
Mhm.
And so I distinctly remember holding Stryker, and that's the one time it's okay for a man to cry. But for real though, it's like it's such a flood of just emotion. The feeling of being overcome with joy
Yeah.
and pride,
Mm.
holding your child for the first time, meeting them for the first time. It's so funny because every single time we've done this, I won't go too much into detail on the others, but every single time it's such a similar feeling and it's not diminished in any way. Like having done it once, it doesn't affect any time after
Yeah.
that. Like every time I get the exact same feeling. In fact, with Havoc and Kano, I remember being like, "Oh, I've done this so many times. Like, I'm not gonna be like overcome with like this emotion," but I get him, and I'm just like, "This is it,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's a really special moment,
It
and I,
is.
I, I think most parents probably feel that same way, right? You get settled for about 10 minutes, and we're like, "Hey, everybody out! We need the room," and we're like,
Mhm.
"What?" I had no idea we were gonna be transferred to another room after he
Yeah.
was born, and it was just kind of a rush, like, no notification, no communication whatsoever, but it was just like,
Yeah, it was
"Everybody
like
grab your
11.
stuff, we're
Yeah, it
leaving
was
to the
11
room."
o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It was just like, "We can't just sleep here? Okay."
Yeah, and I had no idea this was gonna happen, and where we delivered the rest of ours, that was definitely not the case, we stayed in the same place. But there, yeah, I was just like, "Okay, I guess I'll pack up our things." They're like, "Yeah, we need you out of here in, like, 2 minutes." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So that was a little bit weird. So the delivery room is actually pretty big. There's
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff in there, but it was actually a pretty nice room. And then we went into the other room. I remember it being drastically smaller. You would think you get a little bit of a break and you get to just enjoy bonding time with you, like your spouse and baby, and you get to have these beautiful moments. And that wasn't exactly the case.
Well, we were exhausted because we didn't get great sleep the night before. Contractions started getting more intense. And so we had the day before it, like we had such a busy day. And then, yeah, we were moving at 11 o'clock at night. So we didn't get good sleep that night. I remember we had a really new nurse, and it was very obvious that she was new. And she came in every hour that night to either push on my tummy, see how baby was, and I was like, "Can we, like, start combining some of these, like, visits because I need to sleep?" And you slept pretty good, I feel like, considering you were on that crappy couch and we had the day, before that. And I still hadn't peed since having my catheter taken out and the epidural out and everything. They literally took everything out of me so quick and, like, got us moved over to this other room,
Mhm.
and she was like, "We really need you to pee," and she was getting off shift soon. Most of the night, she had come in, like, checking on me, pushing on my tummy, seeing if I could go to the bathroom, seeing if the baby had nursed, and I was like, "I just need sleep. Can we, like, combine some of these visits?" So finally at, like, 6 o'clock in the morning, she's like, "Maybe just get up and, like, I know it's gross, but see if you can pee in the shower and let the water run over you." And I was like, "Okay." And I still couldn't pee. And then she's like, "Okay, like, let's scan your bladder." And there was, like, it was a lot in there. It was like, I don't remember exactly the amount, but it was a lot. And so she called the doctor, and the doctor's like, "You need to replace the catheter again." And honestly, that was more painful than childbirth, than the epidural being placed, than any of it. That was the most painful thing I had to experience throughout that entire visit.
And you didn't even have an epidural for that.
I didn't even have you. You were asleep on the couch. I remember, so she tried to place it with her charge nurse. The charge nurse then tried to place it, and they finally paged OB to have one of the OB nurses come and place it. So I had to tried to place 3 separate times, and there was a little bit of a break in between, like, m both those nurses trying and then waiting for the OB to come over and try, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's so swollen. No wonder she can't pee. Why haven't you been giving her ice packs?" And I'm looking at my new nurse going like, "Yeah, this is my first baby. Why haven't you been giving me ice packs?" Like, I don't know what I was supposed to do.
And
And
was it about this time when I woke up and I was like, "Can you guys keep it down?"
no, you did wake up and I was, like, crying, waiting for the OB to come in, and you're like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "They've already been trying to get the catheter in me because I can't pee, and now I'm waiting for another OB to come in because they say, like, it's been too long and I need to pee right now." And I think you were there for a few minutes, you helped me with Stryker, and then you kinda went back to sleep, and they got the catheter placed and, like, immediately drained, like, 1,500 milliliters off my bladder. And for that reason, they were like, "We wanna keep you an extra day and leave the catheter in to give your bladder a chance to recover, to relax." And so we ended up staying a whole 'nother day in the hospital, and I had the catheter the whole time, just, like, in our room in a gown, trying to get used to nursing, trying to get used to this new dynamic. We watched a lot of TV. But yeah, that was honestly the most painful thing out of that entire experience for me.
I wish I was awake a bit more to be there with you
It's
for
okay.
that. But I do remember, I mean, it just seemed like person after person. Like, we had a couple visitors, like my mom and your parents came
Mhm.
up,
Yeah.
and it was just like there was no break. It was as
Yeah.
if one person walked out and then was like, "Okay, I'm clear. Send them on in." And then the
Yeah.
next person came in.
Yeah.
And it's so strange because none of our others were like that. Not to that extent at all. We had doctors come in who, so there's a couple things I remember. I remember one doctor that was like, "Do you want to circumcise the baby?" We're like, "Yeah, we think we're gonna do it." And I just remember her being like, "Well, there's plenty of babies in the world who don't get circumcised," or something like that. And I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that she kind of interjected with that. And then the other thing I remember very clearly is there were a couple doctors that came in, but they were very insistent, like, "You will be on birth control before you leave."
Yeah, so again, 2 things we were very ignorant about because, like, okay, so that first doctor that came in was like, I mean, plenty of people in the world are not circumcised today. We're like, we never even thought about that as an alternative. We never even knew that was really a choice. Like, we just knew we were having a boy, so, like, that meant circumcision, and, like, we knew it wasn't covered in the hospital because of insurance, because I was still on my parents' insurance, but, like, baby hadn't been added, all that stuff. And so we knew we wouldn't be doing it in the hospital, but, like, to not do it at all didn't even cross our mind. We didn't even think about that. And then with the birth control, my gosh, that was such a mess in itself. So I remember the nurse being like, "What are we doing for birth control before you're discharged?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Can we just talk about it at my 6-week appointment? Because you can't have intercourse for 6 weeks." And she was like, "Oh, no, we have to do it today because we have people who come to their 6-week appointment pregnant." And I was like, "Okay, has that happened, like, more than once? And also that's not gonna be me because I'm too afraid to even look down there now after
And
everything that's just
also,
happened."
is that your choice to intervene on that?
Yeah, I feel like after that, every nurse and doctor that came into our room was like,
Every single one.
yeah,
Yep.
just so you know, it's really recommended that you wait at least 18 months between pregnancies. And I was like, I kind of wanted my kids close together. And also, I just had a baby. I'm not even like, why are we even talking about this? This
Why
can
is
wait
that being
until my
forced down our
6 week
throat?
appointment.
Yeah.
Like, for the next 6 weeks, I'm safe. Don't worry about it. And I will address it with my OB at that time. But they were so insistent that like we gotta get you on something before you're discharged that I was like, okay, I guess just put me on the depot shot because that's all that I knew. That's all I had been on before having Stryker. And so it was somewhat familiar. And I really didn't know what other options we had. And I felt so pressured. If you want to leave, you need to do this first. And it's funny because we're just waiting there, ready to be discharged. And like the tech was like ready to walk us down to the car. And she was kind of like, are you guys ready to go? Like, what are we waiting on? And I was like, I'm just waiting for the birth control shot. And so honestly, like the tech was ready to take us. We should have just left. I took the birth control shot, immediately regretted it, still regret it to this day. And I still feel a lot of frustration and anger that everyone was so coercive
It
about
was.
taking it.
We were definitely coerced, but
Yeah. As a first time parent, like we had so much to learn as first time parents. And I have to kind of forgive myself sometimes for that person and not blame her for being more educated, for not seeking out more resources and guidance. But we did the best that we could with the knowledge that we had at the time. It was definitely a learning experience. So,
yeah, it was.
in those first few days from transitioning to Courtney and Jared, husband and wife, to Courtney and Jared, husband and father, how do you feel like it was going? How did it align with like your expectations? Was there anything that really like surprised you?
Yeah, I think it was kinda just the realization of it's over. Like, it's no longer just you and me living
Mhm.
our life, and that came in the form of this baby consumes a lot of her time. I mean, as the one who feeds the baby, for a lot of it, I felt like a bystander, and yeah, I just remember, like, we'd be together for 10 minutes, and then it's like, "He's ready to be fed again." Like,
Yeah.
here comes the next hour cycle of this.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just in this mode of like, okay, well, she's going to be busy doing this, and I guess I'll just do school. And I guess it was a lot of just seeing you as the caretaker. And I mean, I'd step in and I'd hold Stryker, and I felt like you were the one, you know?
Yeah.
And while I was there to support you in that, it didn't seem like there was that much to do.
Sure. Yeah.
So what about you? Where was the moment where you noticed, like, this is it, our lives are forever changed?
Yeah, again, another thing we didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know how often he was gonna need to be fed, even throughout the night. And so he wasn't sleeping great. I was like, "What is this? Every 2 hours forever for the next few weeks, for the next few days?" Like, I'm starting to get really tired. And so that's why I'm also annoyed that the hospital didn't let us rest at least a little bit before we came home and we're kinda on our own to now take care of him ourselves. We definitely didn't get sleep for those first few days, and I remember you, like, wrapping him so tight, and you had the fan
Well, not
going.
too tight for
Yeah,
you.
not too tight, but you wrapped him up really tight. You had been watching YouTube videos of how to calm baby down and help settle baby and swaddling, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And you were like, "Don't worry about it, like, it's gonna help him sleep, and we're gonna get some rest, and it's gonna be good. Like, this is what he needs right now." And I was just like, "My gosh, like, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad that you thought to look up on YouTube how to swaddle a baby because we haven't thought about any of these things."
I was so smart to use my YouTube resource, right?
So, that was a moment for me that was like, I'm not doing this on my own. I might not have things figured out and things are really hard right now, but at least I have you. So even if we both don't know what we're doing, at least we have each other that we're going it through it with. And yeah, I mean, things did get easier. We did, start to do a little more research. We picked up a book on feeding and sleeping because we didn't feel like either of those things were going well. And at the very least, it gave us like, "Oh, this is what you were to expect, and so there's nothing wrong with what's going on right now, it's just that you didn't know what to expect." And that was a lot of comfort to both of us, I think, because, yeah, in those first few weeks, I didn't know, is something wrong? And is he not getting enough milk? Is he not sleeping? Like, all these things, and then it was like, actually, this is really normal and what to expect, maybe waking up 4 and 5 times a night. It just brought a level of comfort of like, we're not messing everything up. We're not doing everything wrong. We just gotta ride this out. And we're doing everything that we can. And so
So I think that's a hard part of being first time parents is you're
mhm,
not really sure,
mm,
like, is this wrong?
yeah,
And I remember in our circumstance, living with your grandparents, your parents being across the yard, your aunt and uncle being across the yard in a different house, this triangle of your family.
yeah,
And I just remember it seemed like there were a few times where we are just like, is this normal? Like, what do we do? That's kind of hard because you really don't know what you're doing. So you are seeking advice, but you're also not forming what you want,
mhm,
even though you're just unlearned, right?
yeah,
And so you try and do the best you can, but I think there's definitely a strong learning curve there.
mhm, yeah.
So from there, what was it like having a baby, watching him grow? How did it affect our relationship?
Yeah, and once we got past those first few weeks, things really started to become more manageable for us, I feel like. We didn't have a lot of responsibility, so it was easy for me to just be like, "Oh, baby's fed, baby's taken care of and napping, so now I'm gonna nap," and you would play Xbox, and we would do different things together. It was just a really peaceful time in our life, like, switching to having a baby. I feel like our relationship was at a really, really good place at that time because we had nothing but time. Once I went back to work, that was really, really difficult. I mean, what was it like for you now having a 3-month-old and being its sole caretaker and being the stay-at-home parent?
So by the time you went back, it was interesting timing because it was like right as you went back that I started school. I mean,
Mhm.
I had some preliminary stuff to do, which I think I mentioned, but he slept a lot. And I guess that was helpful for me because I did like 43 credits that first term.
Yeah.
But being a parent at home, it's interesting because that's kind of not the norm of the man being home and the woman going to work. And so for me, I do feel like I was familiar with the schedule, but I also hadn't fed him at all.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of just taking your lead on a lot of things. I had this milk in the fridge and get it out and do this. And so I was like, okay, like you've never even done this, but okay, I'll try and get this done.
Yeah.
And because you'd only fed him directly.
Mhm.
You never even used a bottle. And I do remember being frustrated with him not being interested in the bottle. So you only worked 3 days a week at that time when you went
Mhm.
back,
Yeah.
but you had an hour commute and you worked 12-hour days.
Yep.
And we had, like, a hard bedtime at 8 o'clock. I mean, we still have that, right?
Yeah.
But your shift was 7 to 7, and so you would have to leave right as work ended, no
Mhm.
lollygagging, and then you'd get
Yeah.
home and you'd have, like, 15 minutes with him.
Yeah.
And I remember there were some days where you would be late for whatever reason and you'd completely miss him. And I'm just like, I kept him up late. I wanted you to see him, but I felt like he needed to go to bed. He was so tired.
Yeah.
And I think both of us were a little bit heartbroken on those days when that happened.
Mhm.
And I mean, you even adjusted, like you told your coworkers, I can't wait for you guys to leave. I can't
Mhm.
hang out
Yep.
when shift is over, I gotta go.
Yep.
And I'm sure that was hard for you. So it was kind of a difficult time,
Mhm.
but I think you even changed your schedule because you were so heartbroken on some of those days where you missed it. You changed your schedule so you were working like every other day. It
Yeah.
was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday or something like that. And I
Yeah.
mean, it was because like we were both just devastated on days you missed him, and then you'd have to go to work the next day for another 12 hours and
Mhm.
could potentially miss him again. So
Yeah.
you were like, "I gotta be there. I can only work a day, and then I need to have a day with him."
Yeah.
And, so it was definitely an interesting period. I got to have a lot of special time with Stryker
You did. Yeah.
in those first 2.5 years of his life. And what it's interesting though, because I feel like I spent so much time with him and I bonded with him so much. But then when you were home, I was almost completely hands off.
Mm.
And it was like you were all Stryker and I was all homework. And so no matter how much we're aligned on things, there's still going to be differences in how things are done, right?
Mhm.
So that was probably difficult for him, but I guess we tried the best we could. I got a ton of homework done.
Yeah.
You were still working. We were just trying to navigate it, and it wasn't easy, but we
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, like, having to ask you, like, "What do I give him for lunch?" Because we had started, like, the purees and the different things, and he had gone through this period of trying different things, and I was just like, "What am I supposed to give him? Like, you've been giving him everything. Where is he at on trying these different things?" And I was, like, so upset that I didn't know his schedule. I didn't know what to do. It was a sacrifice, that's for sure. But we knew we were gonna be okay. We were working towards something really great. You were working so hard at school and still prioritizing time with him, you know? We had a lot of family's help at the time. And so we made some sacrifices and we knew it was for something amazing. We were building something amazing. So
All right. Who is Stryker today?
that's a good question. Stryker is very compassionate towards other people. Stryker is always mindful of kids at school, people at the store, his brothers. I remember taking him to the store and everybody that we would walk past, whether he like went in front of them or not, he would just be like, "Excuse me." And he was just this little kid. And that's kind of always how he's been, is just very compassionate towards others, very mindful of others.
Well, it's funny because he's kind of like a protector of his brothers.
Mhm.
He can also be very rough with his brothers.
Yeah.
So it's almost this idea of like nobody's going to beat up my brothers but me.
Yes, that's exactly, yeah, you hit it right on the head. So, I think he's really smart. He works really hard to try to read and do math, and he gets so proud of himself when he does accomplish different things.
Man, when we had those reading papers
Mhm,
the past year or two, whatever, from school, I just remember he started reading those, and I mean, we were a little too lax with it at the start,
mhm,
but he started reading, and he would be short of the like, this is the requirement or expectation for this age, and he'd be short for quite a while, but then he ended up being way beyond it,
mhm,
and I mean, just seeing him progress was a proud moment for me,
mhm.
but then as he got better and better, he was so proud of himself,
Yeah,
which made me more proud.
yeah, mhm,
So sometimes he can struggle with the motivation to get started on things like that, but when he does, he's so dedicated to it,
yeah,
and it's awesome to see. I want to do something.
okay,
If you could go back to that Courtney at that time when you first had Stryker, well, let's just say we arrived home
mhm,
and we got Stryker with us. We're these newborn parents.
yeah.
What advice would you give yourself to that younger Courtney?
I guess I would just tell her, like, "You're the only mom that he has. He's always gonna look to you. You are his example moving forward. You're his protector. You don't have all the answers right now, but, like, it's always gonna be you. No one can ever replace you. This is your role in his life forever. Realize that even if you are making mistakes or maybe not getting everything right, even still today, he's still gonna love you and he's still gonna just look up to you and want you in his life because you're his mom." I think that maybe would relieve pressure off a parent to realize all I need to do is love you and I am 100% capable of loving you, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That was an emotional question.
yeah. What would you share if you could go back in time and tell Jared a piece of advice?
I do remember getting really frustrated at times when you were working. So I feel like my message would be pretty similar
Hmm.
in some ways, in that you need to be patient and all he needs from you is love. I had this moment with Stryker. I remember Stryker was giving me a lot of resistance when we were getting out of the bath, and he really didn't want to get out. And I think I raised my voice and said a couple things, and it ended up just being a really rough night. We were kind of button heads, and it wasn't a good situation. And he ended up going to bed, and I talked to him a little bit, you talked to him a little bit, and he kind of had a hard night. The entire next day, I kept thinking about it, and I knew I had to do something. So when we were doing nighttime chores, all the other kids are like getting in bed, and he's like in his underwear and still not doing his chores. And you were frustrated
Yeah.
because he's the only one who wasn't doing his chores. But I was in Radam's room, and for some reason, I just laid down on the floor and I was like, "Come here, Stryker." And I just held him and I said, he's just laying on top of me. We're face to face. There was this moment on Boy Meets World where the dad like grabs his face and he's like, "As long as you got my face, you got my attention."
Yeah.
So that's something we kind of do now when something important needs to be said. And
Yeah.
he's laying on top of me and we're just face to face. And I just said, I've been thinking about last night when you got out of the bath, and I don't feel good about how that went. I could have done better." And he said, "Yeah, I could have done better also. It's my fault. I should have just gotten out of the bath, and I just got mad and I was screaming, and I know I shouldn't do that." And I mean, he was just going on, and I'm like, this is it. This is what you felt. Like, just because I came back to it to try and make remediation, and I said, "I could have done better."
Hmm.
Like, he just completely opened up, and we had this bonding moment, and even though we got to bed late, even though we didn't do our chores on time, I feel like we made a lot of progress there.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks really loud to who Stryker is,
Yeah.
and he does wanna be a good kid for us, Like, he wants to do things and be just a great brother and son, and it just meant a lot to me. And so, yeah, I think the influence of a father is a powerful one, and I guess that's the thing I would share with my younger self.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. I love that we did that. That's a really good exercise.
Anything else you wanna share about Stryker?
There's so many things, but not for this episode.
That was fun.
It
Thank you for
was really
talking
fun.
about that. We covered a lot of things. So, next time
Yeah.
we're going to talk about gender roles and how things work in our house.
Yeah.
So, the question we're going to leave our audience and we're going to answer at the start of our next episode. Our reflection question is, which household role or responsibility do you actually enjoy doing?
None of them. I'm just kidding. But I think it's going to be a really good episode next time. I'm excited to go through all of our kids' births and all of the stories that we have for our kids and hopes that we have for our kids. But I also don't want it to be like every episode. So we're going to break it up. We're going to go through some other really fun topics in the next few episodes, and it's going to be really fun. So,
Yeah, well, we get the opportunity to share how we evolve in becoming parents,
yeah.
that whole experience.
We're not still ignorant parents. We have learned a lot since that experience and even more experiences.
Well, we're probably
So,
still ignorant in some ways.
yeah,
We're learning. And I think that's the important thing.
yeah,
We're learning, trying to do better and grow. So next time, gender roles. I'm excited for this one.
yeah.
Well, we'll see if people love us or hate us after that one.
All right. See you guys.
This has been the Chaos Commitment. Thanks for embracing the mess with us.
If you laughed, learned, or felt a little less alone, share this with a friend who gets it. Until next time, keep choosing each other through the chaos.